Welcome to another edition of Cotton Chats. I'm Eric Best, technical agronomist with Deltapine here in West Texas. Here lately, my phone's been ringing a lot with questions about PGRs, plant growth regulators in cotton. Tells me a couple things. Number one, where we have moisture and have fertility, a lot of this cotton's finally starting to turn the corner and look like a cotton crop. Temperatures have moderated a little bit, but the growth and development in some of these fields is really starting to take off. Even in places where we have thin stands, that cotton will try to fill in. One of the biggest tools we have that we can use for height management and growth management is plant growth regulators. Things like mepiquat chloride, mepiquat pentaborate, and things like stance. And when we start getting those type questions, there's a couple things I always like to do when I step out in that field. Number one is, what kind of water do you have? What kind of yields are you shooting for? And tell me a little bit about your fertility program. Another thing I like to look at is it rotated ground? Because sometimes it's cotton following corn or cotton following another failed crop from last year. A lot of times need to know what that nitrogen supply is for how that cotton really will take off and grow. Then the other thing I like to look at is look at these plants. This particular plant happens to be 13 to 14 nodes, pretty average for this field. I start seeing a lot of early square set on nodes 6 and 7. And one of the best plant growth regulators we have available to us is high heat and then a good square set. So as we go into this first week of bloom, a lot of these squares are going to start turning into bolls. Those bolls become a very strong sink. And if we have high fruit retention, in particular this plant is about 95% going into first flower, that's excellent sink for that carbohydrate and photosynthate reserve. And it'll keep those plants a little bit shorter. So when you go in there and look at those fields, if you have a good square set and it's high heat and it might be marginal limited water, then you can kind of cut back on some of those rates. If you go into a field and you see a lot of squares missing, or you have high fertility and high water, you might need to bump those rates up a little bit. But look at the weather. Look at the rotation on that ground, look at the square set in those plants, and then on top of that, you need to know a little bit about some of the varieties. Some are much more responsive than others. Some tend to grow a little bit more than others, but at the end of the day, it's going to take 2 shots. And I like to tell a grower, let's get a little bit on it early, whether it's 4, 6, or 8 ounces, and then we'll come back about 10 days later and or about 3 nodes of growth, and we'll look at it again. I start in the top of the plant and I go down 3 nodes to the space between that 4th and 5th fully elongated node, and that'll be the one that really tells us a lot about what that plant's doing. I look at it here, this one's about 2 to 3 nodes, so it is growing a little bit. It's also bright green. It doesn't have that red tinge to it telling me that it's stressed. So this is a field right now that I would probably be in that 4 to 6 ounce range, and I would come back probably in 9, 10, 11 days, about 3 nodes of growth, and look at it again. Putting that first shot on makes the second shot much more effective and gives us a chance. And this one has, like I said, has great square set going into first flower. A lot of these squares are going to start turning into bowls. And with the heat and the forecast we have and knowing the water here, this is one I'd probably recommend it on. But no substitute for putting your footprints in the field. Tune in again next time for another edition of Cotton Chats.